Love Up. We continue Live's Go Green Week with a lesson on how to make use of your leftover food scraps. Here to tell us all about composting is the features director at Better Homes and Gardens, Amy Brightfield. Amy, good to see you.
Hello, good to see you guys.
All right, so we're getting to worms soon, but first, what is composting?
So composting is making use of all your food scraps and organic material to turn it into a rich compost to add to your garden soil. So it adds nutrients to your garden soil. And it reduces food waste.
Oh,
okay.
Well, that's a good reason to do it.
Yes.
Why else should we do it?
Well, it also reduces greenhouse gas emissions because, so for example, people might think, oh, well, why is it bad if the food just degrades in the landfill? Well, if it's in the landfill, it releases methane, which is bad for the environment.
Those climate reports that just came out are terrifying.
Yes. And so if you put your food waste in a compost, it reduces greenhouse gases.
So Alfred and I are always confused at the end of a meal. What can we compost and what can't
Alfred
we?
is Ryan's manservant.
Oh,
Who doesn't think
okay. So you think greens and browns. So greens are all of your like fruits and vegetables. You can also do coffee grinds and unbleached coffee filters. You can do, so the browns are twigs, wood chips, grass clippings, but nothing that's been treated with pesticides. So it's the greens and the browns. So it's leftover fruit and vegetables and things like that.
What should we not compost then? What to avoid?
So do not compost meat, fish, and dairy and oils. These can cause it to smell and attract pests.
Seems, I guess, pretty obvious.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it.
What are the different ways to do it?
So there's a few different ways. So an easy way is called cold composting, and that's when you just have a pile in your backyard.
And you just like throw it there.
You just put it there. And the thing is that takes kind of a long time, but that's the easiest. You just do it, you put all your food scraps and the browns and the greens out there.
Do you need to keep it away from the house?
You have to put it like in a
don't the
thing?
beavers and squirrels
it's
and
actually
insects
easier
get
if you put it in a thing, but like the cold composting, you don't put it in anything because it doesn't heat up. So the second thing is hot composting.
Okay.
And that's more common, and that's what what most people do.
Okay.
And then you get a bin.
I just want to know where he has beavers on his property that he's worried about getting in.
That was
like,
just for your
beavers?
benefit, Kelly, to question it.
This container is actually for your food scraps in the kitchen. So this is like, so keep this in your kitchen if you're going to compost. It's easy because you might forget as you're cooking. So as you're cooking, you can just put all the extra stems and tops of onions.
That was a paper shredder.
So instead of like just like pulling out your waste receptacle and doing that.
Okay.
So hot composting, you want the right ratio of greens to browns.
Okay.
And so it's the ratio of 3 to 1 browns, greens. And
So 3 browns, 1 green.
Yeah.
Okay.
Browns are carbon, greens are nitrogen. So greens are what heats it up.
Okay.
So you want to get a container, a bin that's aerated. You could use what you have, but you want to make sure that it's oxygenated.
Okay.
So we have this bin here, and so you want to put in. If everybody wants to start putting in their greens to browns, so you could do straw. So you have like straw here too. You can do grass clippings. Yep. Oh, that's greens, but put it all in.
2. This is greens?
That's greens.
I thought this was brown.
No, it's green.
Just
Look
put
what
it all
color
in.
it is.
No, I understand that it's green, but I thought the greens
color
were
green.
the foods,
No,
and
this
then
is
the browns
this
were
is
the
brown. Can't you see it? Where are your glasses?
Greens, browns, and you don't want it to smell. It should not smell. It actually, if it smells, you want to add in more browns.
Okay.
Gelman, where are you? I'm here. You know, I once thought that your composting smelled. Not to be judgmental, but I thought it had a
Are you
bad
putting
smell.
dairy in your pile?
No, no dairy, no dairy.
But
Maybe
why-
I had too many greens.
Yeah, maybe you didn't have the ratio right.
Too many
Did you put
greens.
food in there?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
yes,
you can also put the food in there?
You
Okay.
absolutely. So the pie, it's the greens to the browns.
And
You put
eggshells?
You put eggshells, or you can also compost eggshells. They take longer to break down, so you might want to put them in a blender before.
Oh, okay. Great.
Got it.
So then what you want to do is you want to put this back on, and so you want to go and you want to turn it because you want to make sure that it gets. You want to It's like when you go and put it like a couple of times a week.
That's a fun job for the kids. Get out there and turn the compost.
Put some muscle
Because
on.
you want to make sure that it gets aerated and oxygenated. And also you want to check to make sure that the middle is heating up enough. And if it's not heating up enough, you can add more greens in. You can take the temperature of the center of it, or you can
Do you
just
think
stick
we'll
your
start
hand in.
seeing more municipalities, more cities doing this as a program?
You absolutely can, and that's another great way. If you don't want to like have a pile or do it in your kitchen in a bin, you can actually save your food scraps in the freezer and then leave them out to get picked up.
Got it. All right. When we come back, we'll learn how to compost with worms. All right. right, back to tell us about vermicomposting now. What do we have here, Amy? We have the worms.
It's a red wiggler worm. That is
Kelly, you want to take a
that
look?
is the specific kind of worm you're supposed to use. You cannot use any old earthworm. The red
Not
wiggler,
earthworms.
not earthworms. Don't just pick up a worm from the sidewalk and put it in. You have to use the red wigglers.
And where do you get those?
You can order them online. It's best to order
You just
them
wave
online.
your palm
I
at the
swear you
store
can
and they
order
come right
everything
out.
online.
Order it, and then you'll start getting ads for it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do we do now?
Vermicomposting is really great. It's quick. It's quicker than hot composting.
All right.
And so what you want to do is you want to make a nice little bed for them. You want to get a bin, and it's probably better to order one of these online because you want to make sure that it has the right amount of holes and that the holes are big enough so that it gets air in, but small enough so that the worms don't come out.
Is this a specific worm bin?
This is a specific
Vermicomposting
vermicomposting
bin.
And actually, this has legs. It should be raised off the ground so the air can get in on the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I see the
So
two components.
You're better off just getting it.
So how do we set up our
So
bin?
you have to make a little bed for the worms. So you
Okay.
do the bedding is shredded newspaper, and you're supposed to wet the shredded newspaper, like dampen it they like it about 75 to 85% damp, not soaking wet. And so then you want to put in a little bit of soil for them.
gloves?
A little bit of soil
just
for the worms.
Just gonna
Dump it?
sprinkle
Okay.
it.
And then you want to put a little bit of grit in because the grit helps the worms
Grit.
digest the food waste.
Okay. and
So
this
it
is
helps
the
them.
grit.
It works really fast.
Okay, like
so
salting your
then you want to put in the worms. Ready?
All the worms?
Look, you don't have to touch it. Yeah.
No, just put them all in?
Yeah, just put them all in. Just dump them all in. There
Oh,
they
they are red.
Look, you see them? There they are.
Oh, boy,
They're
there's a
so
bunch in the bottom.
worm-ish.
We think there's 500 in each. They're small. It doesn't look like much.
It looks like a lot to me. It
so
looks
then
like
you
all
wanna-
the worms in the world.
So then you want to put the food scraps in for them. You want to put the food scraps in, but after you put the food scraps in for them, you want to cover it because you don't want the food scraps to be exposed because that can, it'll attract all sorts of stuff. So then you put a piece of cloth, you put more bedding over the food scraps.
So how do we harvest it?
More bedding. Put your bedding on top of the
So
worm.
harvesting is one tip too that you can tell that compost is good or not. You can tell it should smell earthy and fresh, and it should be like squeezable and crumbly. So to harvest the worms, it's the dump and sort method. So you just put out a piece of tarp. And you dump this on in the worm and dump it into little piles, and the worms will naturally
Come out.
gravitate towards the middle
The center.
and separate themselves, and so you
they'll
can
spread
separate the
themselves out.
compost out.
They'll
they
do it
do
on their
that?
own. Because
They go towards the
They
middle.
want to go for the next batch.
Yes.
They want to come back and vermicompost some more, right?
And so you can test if your compost is good or not is if you put it in a plastic baggie and seal it for a couple of days, and if you open the bag and the compost smells, that means that it's not good and you put it back in.
We're gonna have nightmares.
Hey, for these tips and more, visit our website. Amy, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Amy.
Very informative. And we'll be right back with the inbox after this break. Hang on.